Yo, so I was thinking, right? I was talking to my sister, and we was talking about everything that's going on with Trump, the tariffs and stuff, Elon Musk, and DOGE, and what they've been doing, and all the fraud they've been finding, right? And them possibly talking about giving us a stimulus, and that stimulus is based on if you're a taxpayer, meaning that you didn't, you know how some people make a certain amount of money, they might get a tax credit back based on children or not making over like 35,000 a year, whatever. So the government is subsidizing them with a credit and give them child tax credits and stuff like that, right? But if you make a certain amount, typically you owe every year. You got to pay taxes. So they was talking about maybe giving people 5,000, um, a $5,000 dividend or somewhere around it, depending on how much you pay. Starting at how much you pay in taxes, starting around people who make 50,000 and up, right? And you had different people in the Democratic Party. Just no matter what Trump do is bad. And it's like, forget all the politics. I want to see the politicians start talking about, helping the American people, right? Um, but anyway, not to get too deep into the back and forth, but one thing stood out to me, right, when me and my sister was talking, and we was talking about um all the different things Elon was doing, and one thing came up was the emails, right? So and everybody was so upset about the emails, and like, he just said, "Hey, send the email in. Let me know you're alive," basically, right? Let me know what you're doing every week, and if you don't reply, we'll take that as your that's your resignation or whatever, right? And everybody was upset, and people all on TikTok making videos and blah blah blah. Some people was like, "Yeah, I don't have no problem showing accountability. This is what I do," right? And some people was like, "No, how dare he?" Blah blah blah. So this is the big thing about saving money, sending people back to work, right? So, but what really stood out, right? And then I found some videos. What really stood out to me, it just made me think about something. Something was so familiar about this email thing. Remember when Elon bought Twitter, right? And it was valued at a certain amount, right? And they had a big back and forth, right? Because there's a lot of bots on Twitter, right? And those bots count as followers, right? And the value of Twitter was based on how many followers, hence advertisements and stuff like that, based on, how many people follow on Twitter, whatever, right? So remember when he bought Twitter, they did this verification email to make sure that you was a real person. And they did that to see how many people replied, and that's how they based how many true followers they had versus bots. Hence the true value of Twitter, because he had backed out of the deal because of that, and then he ended up buying it anyway. And they did that, and he bought it based on the true value of the real followers versus the overall followers with the bots and everything, right? And that's what he did with those. That's what that government thing was about, right? That's what the whole thing was about. When he sent the emails out, because what they was trying to hint to that it was a whole lot of fraud and it wasn't people, it wasn't real people. Remember when they talked about Social Security and somebody, the oldest person getting Social Security, like 300 and something years old, and they had people like 100, 120, 150. It was millions of people's getting paychecks every month that didn't exist or was dead, right? So somebody was getting this money. Somebody was taking money from the government, right? So what I'm getting out of that is that they thought that a lot of these um so-called workers wasn't real people, and that was another way of them taking money. So that's what the email was about. And if you didn't reply, hits you got fired. Let's watch a couple of videos to help bring this point home.
Elon Musk threatened to walk away from his $44 billion deal with Twitter if they don't provide him the requested information about spam bot accounts. According to his letter to Twitter, they repeatedly refused to provide him the requested information so that he could evaluate how many accounts were actually fake. It was also stated that because the refusal was a clear material breach, it gives Elon Musk the right to terminate their agreement. These bots are fake accounts that mimic human interactions online, but the problem is they're getting more and more sophisticated as the years go by, and they're harassing people, scamming people, trolling. This could become a big problem for Twitter because it could lose its company value because people are losing faith in its integrity.
And that's the whole reason why they had the verification emails. That's why he was about to back out that $44 million, excuse me, $44 billion deal based on that. And he used this same tactic when it came to DOGE and the federal workers, and that's I was like, and it clicked. Then, and if you read between the lines of what Elon say and what Trump say, that was the strategy the whole time. People didn't even catch it at first. They just upset. Some people was like, yeah, I mean, I work for the government, boom. And then don't forget, it was a lot of people working from home who probably worked 1 hour, had another job, was at the gym, whatever. You know how it is when you work from home, man. You ain't working the whole time. Let's just be honest. No shot to them.
To be clear, I think that email perhaps was misinterpreted as a performance review, but actually it was a pulse check review. Do you have a pulse? Do you have a pulse and 2 neurons? So if you have a pulse and 2 neurons, you can reply to an email. This is, I think not a high bar, is what I'm saying. This is, anyone could accomplish this. But what we are trying to get to the bottom of is we think there are a number of people on the government payroll who are dead, which is probably why they can't respond. And some people who are not real people, like they're literally fictional individuals that are collecting paychecks. Well, somebody's collecting paychecks on a fictional individual. So we're just literally trying to figure out, are these people real? Are they alive? And can they write an email? Exactly. Which I think is a reasonable expectation for the American public would have at least that expectation of someone in the public sector.
Exactly. So remember, see, you gotta think about why Trump brought him on board. Like, I don't really feel, he say some goofy stuff, man. But he is who he is. Sometimes, like, medicine don't always taste good. You're not gonna like everybody, right? But as far as in him doing what he doing now, he's getting to the bottom of it. And that strategy worked. It worked when he bought X. It worked. It worked. So this is the same strategy he's applying. Granted, remember, a lot of the fraud was quote unquote studies. Studies. So like when you hear study now, you already know it's probably a fraud.
There was a lot of genius in sending it. We're trying to find out if people are working. And so we're sending a letter to people. Please tell us what you did last week. You know why he wanted that, by the way? I thought it was great. Because we have people that don't show up to work and nobody even knows if they work for the government. So by asking the question, tell us what you did this week, what he's doing is saying, are you actually working? And then if you don't answer, like you're sort of semi-fired or you're fired, because a lot of people are not answering because they don't even exist. They're trying to find, that's how badly various parts of our government were run by, and especially by this last group.
How did that happen? How did that happen? That you owe the IRS. That $2,000 you owe a turn to $4,000 real quick. Taxes. Interest and penalties. They'll levy your paycheck up to 75%. Nobody care about you. They'll lock you up. You be locked up like what was his name? Dude to play Blade. Anyway, the point is, you go to work, you pay a certain amount of taxes, right? And you just used to it. You live with it. It is what it is. You work overtime. You in a certain tax bracket, you gotta pay, right? You expect the government to do what they're supposed to do with your money, right? Not people ciphering your money. These people been in politics so long, right? They done rigged the game that they got fake employees. Who's getting this money? I would love for them to get to the bottom of it and see who's getting the money. It got to be a politician. It got to be somebody on a high level, right, where they just ciphering all this money. It's not one paycheck. It's not 2 paychecks. It's millions of people. So imagine how many hundreds of thousands of people in the federal government and the millions of people in the Social Security that was getting checks that's 120, 300 years old, right? They were saying it was lies. No, it wasn't. That's why the Democrats and the Republicans mad, because he's draining the swamp. You got to remember, when he got impeached, that was Democrats and Republicans. Remember, he wasn't their guy. Mitt Romney was their guy. So, all right, you try to persecute me, you try to lock me up, you try to do all these things. I overcame. I won the popular vote. I won the electoral college. I'm here. Blue states turned red is lit. Y'all try to paint me as a racist. You try to paint me as this, as a billionaire, blah, blah, blah. The people overwhelmingly chose me. right? And everything and the things that he's doing, he said he was going to do it. Promises made, promises kept. He is draining the swamp.